Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Books and Backbone podcast. My name is Donna Harris. I'm the owner of Bookkeeping Made Simple. And today I have with me Dava Guthmiller. Dava, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and some of the challenges you've had.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Donna. Yeah, so I am the founder of a company called Noise 13. We are a brand strategy and design agency. We've been around since January of 2000, so 26 years. So my list of challenges is very, very long. Um, I started I started my company straight out of school. I was working with one other agency and Uh, but yeah, I was only maybe a year and a half out of school when I started Noise 13.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's awesome, but it also means, I mean, I did not go to business school. I did not work in a bunch of other agencies. I never worked in a large company. So I sort of learned trial by fire, right? So I learned while I was doing everything. Um, and I was really, really lucky that I had worked in my parents' prior, so I knew how to do accounting and basic invoicing, basic business practices, how to take care of your customers, all that great stuff. But yeah, I really had to just kind of like learn as I was doing. Now, I mean, 26 years later, I mean, Noise 13 is still, um, a brand strategy and design agency. We have been doing a lot more consulting the last couple of years, um, doing things like brand audits, looking at the entire brand kind of experience, from your customers to your employees to, retail space. And we work a lot nowadays with food and beverage, hospitality, just because of my really vast experience in the food industry.
Awesome. Well, actually, I love that you've never worked in big corporate America. But personally, I think
I've
it's
worked for,
overrated.
I've had clients in that space, but
Yeah, I got into accounting because I got a job at a big hospital system back east. Realized that I liked accounting. I felt like after having children, I was too far behind in the computer science space. Um, but there was so much backstabbing and politicking that I kind of wish I had skipped that.
it's really interesting because, I'm being a female founder, all these years, and it's, I hear the stories that other people tell about office politics and like the backstabbing and, posturing and
Mhm.
power dynamics. And I also hear stories about how much of a struggle it is for women, or back in the 90s, early 2000s, how it was really a struggle for women to work for women leaders, right? Because it was like, well, she struggled, so then therefore I have to struggle.
Yeah.
And, it's depending on the industry, there is definitely that, um, you know, to be frank, women have to try harder to do or they have to do more. They don't even have to try harder. They have to do more to be seen as equal to a lot of the men. And I think that that's just like the boys club mentality of some industries. And I live in San Francisco, so tech is a very big
Boys
industry
Club.
here. However, you want to peel that apple, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I never really experienced that, and so I hear the stories and I empathize with, you know, people that have had to do that. But and it's also been really interesting to see, my employees over the years leave like this protective little bubble of Noise 13 and, our small team, and go work in house, because it's a lot of times what they do, right? It's really hard to go the other way, work huge and then come small.
Huh?
The, the finances aren't always what people want, and it's a very different pace of life. But working small and then going big, um, is really good for, finances, but it's also, you're leaving this space of like, um, at least in my office where we built this thing together, I teach people as much or as little as they want to know about the business along the way, because that's how I
Hmm.
learned. And then they go somewhere else, and then like there's all these layers and hierarchy and everything else. And watching employees say that they want a trajectory and they want this process and they want levels and hierarchy, but then they get into it and they're like, wow, okay, I didn't realize how good it was.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, it's okay. You have to see both. You have to know both.
my initiation to accounting was actually helping my grandmother at her plumbing and electrical supply shop, and so I was used to that. Then I worked for McDonald's, and then I worked for this big hospital system.
Yeah.
And I laugh. I have five sisters, and I was
Oh,
like in this
oh,
office full of women, and I said, never again. And my boss was an older woman, and she wanted me to have all the same struggles she did. I said, why? Why?
yeah,
My mother actually worked really hard for me not to have those struggles. Why do you feel
yeah,
like you're supposed to give me struggles?
yeah.
And I said, you
And
didn't
I've
have the
had,
life I had.
yeah, I've had a very, I mean, I'm really, really blessed with the people who have chosen to work at Noise 13. Um, there have been a lot of women, but also just a good, really good variety of humans
Hmm.
from all over the world. And um, I think at one point we did have all women, and I didn't even notice
Huh?
um,
Yeah,
because
this
it was,
particular business was pretty toxic from the director
yeah.
down.
Oh, okay.
So I don't blame my coworkers, but I do
Yeah.
definitely look at the director and
Yeah.
wonder what she
Leadership
was
makes a big
thinking.
difference.
Yeah, because I am now the same age she was, and I'm like, I want to empower women. I want women
Yeah.
to feel like they can do anything, and if they want to branch off and start their own business, I'm proud of them. You know,
Same.
I'm not there going, well, you have to do things like I did them. I do tell them if I did it, you can do it, but that's not the same thing. So,
I also feel like if you pay attention to your team, it doesn't really matter how young they are,
mhm,
experienced they are. You can learn from everybody, right?
absolutely.
Anybody can have a great idea. Anybody could come up with a new process or a more interesting way to tackle a challenge. Um, and as a leader, if you're very closed in that thinking of like, it must be my way,
Hmm.
you're really kind of shutting down that kind of innovative thinking as well in your team. So you have to
I
find that
very much agree with that. Yeah,
balance.
yeah. I'm always, some of my best ideas come from my children and grandchildren, actually. So they'll just be like, why don't you do this? And I'll be, I didn't think of that. Thank you for the suggestion. Let me look into that some more. And sometimes it is, I've already tried that, but can you show me maybe where I went wrong? So,
Or we've already tried that, but you know, maybe your idea is different. Explain more. Right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Maybe I'm
trying
not
not to,
understanding. Yeah.
yeah, trying not to cut it off.
So, yeah, I feel like women today are empower other women more than they did when I
Yes,
was coming up.
yeah, and
So,
it's really
which I really
exciting to see. Yeah, I've
and I always
encouraged.
joke, and I'm like, as long as we're not denigrating the men along the way, we need them too.
Yeah,
They're great.
everybody. We need them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need variety. I think that's a huge thing. Even in the Bay Area, it is very, people move here because they want to be in tech and they have like very similar kind of goals and thinking.
Hmm.
And I think for me, where super interesting things happen in business is when you get two people that don't think the same,
Exactly.
that don't have exactly the same background, that you get a technical person and a creative person. When
Hmm.
you mix the two together, you get um, new ideas and new ways of thinking. But a lot of times those lines are really heavily drawn, and
Yeah. Which is really
finding
a
ways.
shame. Because I agree with you. I think the best ideas come from people who think differently and believe differently and approach a problem differently. And sometimes working together, we can come up with a solution neither one of us would come up on our own.
Yeah, I have to remind myself that that also means my clients, right? So I have a lot of clients who are amazing and also creative and have worked with agencies before. And then you have those people who have never worked with a creative person before, and being open to listening to their ideas as much as a non, as a, just because they're not a designer doesn't mean that they can't think through the process with you.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot of, we do a ton of workshops with our clients to bring out that thinking, because they know their business, right? They're in it day to day to know the challenges that they're having. we're coming at a project from an outside view. I'm sure it's the same with
Hmm.
accounting, right?
Oh,
Like I
absolutely.
see the numbers and I'm very close and this is what I see. But when somebody's looking at it with fresh eyes, you have a totally different perspective and you can kind of find opportunities in a new way. But you need both. Like, why did this happen? Why are we in this position? What are those challenges? And then allowing somebody else to kind of expand out that thinking.
Yeah, and it creates some accountability too for my clients if I can sit there and say, no, why are you paying this much for this thing? Whatever it is, you know.
Because I forgot to look.
Yeah. Why do you have 25 different things and do some subscription? Why do you have 25 different AI clients? How many do you need?
Yeah.
And try to get them to think through this instead of them kind of running on autopilot.
Man, subscriptions are like, I mean, that's a killer for personal finance as well as it is for business finance,
Absolutely.
right? And it's like looking at those even I mean, no one's going to look at them every month, but even every 6 months, once a year, because you just don't realize you're like, oh, I'm going to sign up for that thing. I'm just going to try it out really quick. And then you forget to unsubscribe. And then it's just like that bad gym membership that you just forgot about. and they,
And they bank on that.
yes, yeah, it's an easy, I just am in the middle of that, right? Where um, we went from, a larger team to a smaller team, and we have an IT group that helps us out. And so they manage a lot of those things. And I know they know when people leave, the team because they have to shut down their computers and turn off their emails and those kinds of things. But I don't know that it's always going back and looking at the number of subscriptions or the number of users on a platform.
Licenses, yeah.
So licenses are even another thing where you might still need that software, whether it's, Gmail or Adobe or whatever it is. And you don't think about it because you're like, I absolutely have to have this as a business, but you forget to look at who is actually
Right. Do
using
I
it
need
as a
20 licenses or if I cut back
right.
the staff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of auditing some of that for myself of, how many Microsoft Office subscriptions do I really need?
Right.
And how many can I turn off? And how many of them just are kind of placeholders for when I start hiring again?
Yeah.
And it's critical.
I
It's
totally
critical.
agree. And I think just in general for business, I mean, I had, even though was doing like the basic accounting for my dad's, automotive repair growing up, and I knew how to do it, separating the finance from the creativity in my business was really, really important. So I am forever grateful for bookkeepers, accountants, CPAs, all the wonderful people who understand finance better than I do and who like doing it,
Hmm.
um, because it's but especially for my industry, for being creative, separating the billing and the finance from the creativity was super, super important. But, I still have to, as a founder and an owner, I still have to be paying attention to the numbers and, all
Right,
that great stuff. But
right. You don't have to be the one keying in all the data, but you still need to know what your overview is. And a lot of businesses really do run on autopilot. So, so
I'm
that's
very grateful. My, my bookkeeper created or my accountant created like a dashboard that I could look at. Cause I could look at book, reports all the time, but like my brain just kind of like is I don't know, it's too
if you're
busy. And
not
I'm like,
used to it, it just kind of blurs.
yeah. And so we've kind of gone through, however many years of working together, and we created like a dashboard that I look at every single week of the stuff that I have to absolutely pay attention to, the things I need to improve, all of that great kind of stuff. And it's just in a clean little spreadsheet that I can look through all the time. But creating systems, for your operations and for your bookkeeping, uh, especially starting out, the more things that you can systematize in your operations and your processes, the more you can focus on the fun stuff of like
Right. And you
bigger
got to get
thinking
those systems in writing so that it's not all stored in your brain.
and to be able to train somebody else.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
hard to train someone else when you don't have everything written down and they come up with a new every time the new situation comes up, you have to retrain them and
Yeah.
they don't necessarily know what the policies are. So if you get it out of your brain and onto paper or onto a Word document or in Notion or something,
Yeah.
then you can point them at that and say, this is our policy.
Yeah.
And it
We
doesn't
did.
become a personal thing.
Yeah. Years ago, we were really large, large for me anyways. We were like 16 people full time, and we had two project managers. Um, and with project managers, they're managing the client conversations back and forth. They're imagining schedules and, hours tracking. They're dealing with, invoicing. So they're doing a lot of different stuff, proofing. Um, and project managers are, a lot of people, they have, they come from different industries. They use different tools. They have different processes at each office. But when we had those two people, um, one had been there a year, and I brought in a second person, and it was like so wonderful to have somebody who was in that position train the next person. And then together they sat down and wrote their processes. Like in that process of training, they wrote down the whole entire process. And then I made it a habit after that of every new person trying to overlap as much as I could, ideally by at least a week, if not, a month, to have one person train the next. And if I couldn't, then the outgoing person would review that process. Like, great, here's the process I was taught when I started. Read through it, make sure it's still up to date, make the update. So then that way the next person is trained on our most current existing process.
Right,
So
right. Here in
it's a
Utah, we have
simple.
a lot of people that try to do everything by themselves. They really think that owning a business means doing everything themselves. And the culture here is very much DIY, which is fine. But there's some things that I keep telling them, don't outsource that. I mean, don't
Yeah.
keep that in house. Don't try
Yeah.
to do it all yourself. You should know the basics of it, like accounting. You should know the basics of it, just like I have kind of an idea about branding, but it's not my wheelhouse. So I would want to hire someone like you to walk me through it and maybe do an audit. I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah. The audits are really interesting. I mean, we started, 20 years ago doing something called the discovery and audit, right? Which is could be as small as the first phone call and the first kind of workshop meeting where we talk about the challenge. You tell us about your business. We look at the competitors. We talk about your audience, and we just kind of wrap ourselves around your business. No matter how much we understand your industry or not, it's that first kind of step. And for a long time, we did that just surrounding the project we had at hand, right? So you're asking us to do an identity or a package design or a website, and we would just do kind of that discovery and audit based on that, what it is you need us to produce. And over the years, we've realized, those conversations have gotten larger and larger. And when you start to talk about the business goals in general, those should be more than the branding. Those should be more than the deliverable that we're producing, because then we can find opportunities as we go through those questions, um, that could they could be things that we don't even execute on, right? We're just giving suggestions back. um, but more recently we're looking at it as an entire brand experience, right? So how is that brand showing up if you have a physical space or in your hiring process or these other things. um, because the more consistent you can be in your storytelling and your process and, sort of your values, the more they show up, right? So if your team's not trained on what your goals are as a company, and they don't really know anything outside their exact deliverables day to day, they're not then advocates for your company and your brand, right? And, um, so the more touch points you can kind of pull together in consistency, the better that kind of comes across. So
Yeah, yeah. You just made me think of Disney. Um,
yeah.
I just happened to have been in Southern California this past weekend.
Well,
So
I was just
didn't go
there.
to Disneyland, but I went to the beach. That's what we were after. We were hanging out with friends. But Disney, part of their mission is to make your experience at the park so amazing, so as perfect as they can make it. So there's There's no trash. They've got people that they're paying attention to all these tiny details. And I had a friend that performed there once, and he said the microphone went down, and she said, I need a new microphone. And they took her downstairs and they said, what kind of microphone do you need? We have omnidirectional ones, monodirectional ones. We have this kind, we have that kind, we have this other kind. We have several of each kind. What do you need? We'll get it for you.
Wow.
And I've had friends stay at the Disney hotels that had much the same experience, and of they're prepared for everything, and that's one of
Yeah.
their it's part of their brand.
Yeah,
They
it's
want a
part of it. It
wonderful
is.
guest experience, and they do everything, and they're looking at the tiniest little details
Yeah.
to make sure that that brand experience is the same for every guest. So
That's funny. I was
just
just
amazing. I mean, I was amazed. I was like, I never would have thought of all the different kind of microphones you can have.
I've been to Disneyland and for I was literally in Anaheim yesterday for a press check all day, and we were staying at a hotel, and through a window we could see the top of the castle.
I'm
But
sorry, I think you
I
just
haven't
missed.
been there in like you know 20 years. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we have friends down there, so we go down there as much as we can,
nice.
and
It's
it's
warm.
wonderful and warm.
Yes.
It's cold and dark, and well, it's not all that cold this year, but it's cold and dark in Utah this time of year. So, so what goes into a brand audit? Are you talking about the entire customer experience, or you said you're doing more than just deliverables?
Yeah, it really depends on the project. So, like for a good example is one we did recently for a company called All of This, All of That. They're like a little olive oil shop in Noe Valley here in the San Francisco, and uh, we had sort of just chatted over time, and her anniversary was coming up, and sales were a little bit stagnant, and she's just like, I just not sure what I need, and so it was like, oh, I need, a new postcard, or I need, these little things that she needed. Um, but the more I talked to her, the more I realized that she had a couple people or one person in particular on the team that was really capable in creating some of these things. But what she needed was like bigger guidance. And so we first sat down and did, 3 workshops and a site visit. So we went to the space, we looked at the space itself, how somebody perceives the story and the identity and the brand when you arrive. We looked at merchandising, so not just her product, but all the stuff that she carries and how those things were categorized and organized within the store. Because we needed to showcase hers because hers was kind of in the corner, and here it is. This is my company, but my product was over here in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we also looked at like the behind the counter operations because it's very visible in the space, but it is how everyone gets their work done. So we looked at those behind the scenes processed in the storage room. We looked at their online presence, so the website, the social media, the emails. And then we also looked at how they deal with their events. Um, so who are the partners that they work with and those kinds of things. And it really came up more and more that the owner really loves the education side. She loves to do tastings. She loves to both when it's like a sit down tasting and it's much more formal, but also when it's really casual and somebody comes in and she can chat with them for 30 minutes about olive oil and taste things. Um, but, in those conversations, it was like, okay, there's 3 different identities in the space. Her products were hidden, they weren't the feature in the store.
That one actually kind of baffles me.
Yeah, I mean, we put it like the back wall right when you walk in. It's the only thing on that area, and we painted the wall a new color to just make it stand out. But also, the conversation and the storytelling around the different olive oils is really important. But there was not a single surface that was empty in this space. There's nowhere to have that conversation with people that wasn't over a stack of something.
Oh, okay.
So cleaning,
Yes.
purging, cleaning, getting rid of stuff, putting things in storage. We did a big sale to get rid of a lot of things. We got rid of some of the larger furniture in the space to make it, flow around a little easier, but all in the goal of the storytelling and the things that brought joy to the owner and the things that increased customer retention and, all of that kind of stuff. So, um,
Do you find that a lot of owners kind of lose sight of why they went into business to start with?
of course, they get so bogged down with the day to day. Even I do, right? When we went from 6 people to 14 people one year, um, it was all of a sudden we were a very different company, and we tried to do our own brand strategy audit,
Mm-hmm.
which we do for customers all the time. We do this DNA and we redo the strategy and positioning and the messaging for the company, but we don't have time to do it for ourselves, and it would have never gotten done. And so it's really painful to pay somebody for something that you know how to do. But I would have to say that the process of having somebody else do that audit for us and to reflect back what they saw and what they heard from our customers and our team, and the public, it was um, it was good for the whole team as well as it was for me. But it was also, then it got done,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because I still have to run my business. I still have to pay attention to my customers. I still need to train and, take care of my employees. So those things that can be done by somebody else, but also that benefit from being done by somebody else with a fresh eye. Um, it's really important. Nobody wants to pay for it. It's
No,
expensive. If I can give you all the tools to do it yourself, but it might take you 6 months and 100 hours to get to it, right? Or you can pay somebody else like me, or an accountant or whatever, and it gets done in a much shorter time period for a lot less money. Because
exactly.
you're still paying for it in your own hours or your employees hours, right? It's still an expense. It's just
Hidden.
you don't think about it, right?
Yeah, you don't see the money going out, but that time that you could have been generating revenue is also
Yeah,
an expense. And I
exactly.
also think that we look at our own spaces and our own brands so much
Oh yeah.
that we don't see it anymore. I
Yeah.
see this, that's why I tell people all the time, get a fresh set of eyes on your books. I have a whole team that works with me. I can get a fresh set of eyes on your books. You don't have to work with the same bookkeeper all the time. We'll move them around. And with a fresh set of eyes, sometimes they'll go, what is that expense? And why hasn't this been paid? And has this loan been paid off? And all the little things that go into accounting that the owner forgets to even tell us about. If I get a new bookkeeper in, they usually do start questioning things that the last one who's looked at the books for a couple of years, kind of their eyes kind of glaze over after a while and they get on autopilot. Um, and I laugh. I'm like, I can't look at my own space and I can't do my own interior decorating. I'm so
Oh
close to
yeah.
it that
Yeah.
I just I have no idea what I'm doing. I've looked at this room for so long. Somebody else come in here and do it and take care of
Yeah.
it for me. And I
No,
have better results that way.
yeah. And I think that is really important just for business in general. But um, because yet you're going to miss something, and you, because you've seen something 100 times, are not even seeing it the same way that your customer is seeing
Yeah.
it, right? So whether it's your accounting or your services or how you answer the phone, you've just done it a certain way and nobody gives you feedback anymore, right? And your customers aren't always going to, well, nowadays customers are very good about saying something, but you know
Yeah, they are.
not usually in a constructive way.
True.
So having somebody, look and provide constructive feedback and opportunities for improvement in any part of the business, um, once in a while, I think is really beneficial. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I just came back from meeting with a friend of mine who just owned a wellness shop, a wellness
okay,
salon.
okay,
She's brand new to business. She also doesn't have any business background. And I looked at her space. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. You can have events here to bring in clients. You can have this kind of event and this kind of event and this kind of event. And I'll invite all my friends and you invite all of your friends. You have your massage therapist, invite all of her friends. Let's have a big girls' night. You can start having some sort of event every week. Your business is going to grow before you even know it. And she was going, I never thought of that.
yeah, because it's like, oh, I need to do this one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say on the, it's one of those challenges that we have, right? Where it's like you, especially for us, because we're in brand and design, we
Mm-hmm.
can do a lot of things. I mean, I can't even count the number of different types of things that we have message designed, produced for our clients in 26 years. But just because
Yes.
we can do all of those things doesn't mean we really should be doing all of those things, right? And even looking at your company, I mean, there's two sides, right? Where you're so narrow that you're sort of missing some opportunities that could benefit the core business, or you're so broad that the message is messy. And, so um, finding that sweet spot in between is really important. And I think that's one of the things too, because I don't have a business partner, having those outside consultants, periodically is really, really important. You can't always rely on your friends for their very biased opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes too, I mean, I have an MBA as well as a master's in accounting. And I tell people all the time, all that means is I went back to school to prove that I know how to do what I've been doing for 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, doesn't, yes, I was definitely there to learn, but it doesn't, just because I have a certificate on the wall doesn't necessarily mean that I know something. Um, the reason I know how to do things is because I've been in business and I've talked to other business owners and I go to
Yeah.
networking groups and I run this podcast and I get to talk to other people with other perspectives and I learn more from that than I ever did in school. So I can
Yeah.
tell people I'm using my MBA, but a lot of it is I'm using my contacts and um, they don't teach you really how to run a business when you
Oh
get an
no,
MBA.
school doesn't, unless you're in business school doesn't do that.
Now, business school doesn't either. So business school teaches you how to be compliant with the government. And I
Okay,
was
well,
shocked that they didn't actually teach you how to do marketing. They didn't teach you
yeah.
what kind of KPIs you should have. They didn't teach me. They didn't teach me just the very, very basics of how do you come up with your elevator speech? How do you set up a pitch deck? How do you get in touch with investors? They taught me about stocks and shares, but they didn't teach me the things that I actually needed to run my business in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I have this great 30,000-foot view, but getting into it and actually rolling up my sleeves and doing the work, I learned how to do that on my own.
Yeah, I mean, and a huge part of that, I would say, is also how to manage people. I mean, I have seen numerous founders, CEOs that they are so smart and they know how to do the thing that their business does, but they do not know how to delegate or manage people, onboarding or offboarding or mentorship. Um, they're just, it's not there. And it's like, that's okay. But then you have to have somebody else in your business that is doing that.
Right.
Because if you're not, then it's like, then you have high turnover, right? So, and you can't figure out why the turnover is happening. And it's like, well, because nobody knows what they're doing and they're not feeling nurtured in their role.
Or they
You know,
don't feel like they can come to you and ask questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or we end up in that weird power dynamic that we started with.
When I laugh, I'm the oldest of 8 children. So I'm like, on the one hand, I have a lot of experience managing people.
Yes.
On the other hand, they're all my little siblings. So
Yeah. It's
they
different.
don't
Yeah.
necessarily pay a lot of attention to me. Um, and that's both good and bad as far as learning to manage people.
Yeah. I,
Um,
I am really grateful. Both my parents, I mean, my mom was, like a hairdresser. My dad was a mechanic, but my dad had his own shop. Um, and both my uncle and my mom worked there and I worked there. Um, but one of the things my dad and my mom were just really, really good at in that business was, retaining their customers, right? And retaining their employees. I mean, there was people who worked for my dad, like from the time I was born until the time that they stopped being a business, right? And he always told me it's cheaper to keep an existing client or an existing employee than it is to find a new one. So you got to treat them really well. You have to make sure that they have all their benefits. Um, it's not so much that the customer is always right, but it's being able to have conversations with your customers and with your employees, and like have a reason for your decisions, and have, open dialogue and those kinds of things, but also just treating people how you want to be treated, right? Because it's
Right.
like, it's so, especially as a small business, it's just that any of that turnover, whether it's clientele or employees, is just so freaking expensive. And, if you find somebody great, like, nurture them forever. And then even when they leave, even if they decide to leave as an employee, and I will, because the first couple times it happened to me, I just wanted to die. I was like, this is the worst feeling ever. It's like, you're getting broken up with. But I also realized that, like, the better you treat your employees while they're there, then they leave and they're still great advocates for
Absolutely.
your company. Some of the biggest projects and biggest clients that we ever received were from our employees going and working in-house somewhere and then calling us back and hiring us again. So, um, again, because I never worked in big corporate, but they're leaving and going in-house. And so, working with, Tile and Instacart and Uber and Meta and whatever, a lot of those are employees leaving and then hiring us back,
That's
or
awesome.
referring us back, and we, get in with another team or whatever it is. But they understand the capabilities and, what you can achieve as a company better than anybody, right?
Absolutely.
So, I'm really grateful that I have had very, very, very few, um, like, negative employees.
Disgruntled employees.
Yeah. I think I had one who was an intern who almost never showed up and talked the entire time she was at work. And we just, the fourth time that she called in not feeling well, or I can't come in because I have to finish my homework, or um, I woke up late, I can't come in, whatever it was. We're like, okay, well, don't worry about it. You just don't have to come in anymore. She just never came in, right? She just
And
never showed up.
yeah,
Um, but still managing that process, right? Like making sure that you're documenting and whatever. Um, but a lot of times when somebody's not the right fit, it's more about like, well, where are they a good fit? How can you help them find what's the good fit? Like, you've worked with them. What is a good next step for them, right? Because then you can still give a decent referral, and sort of ushering that along before it becomes this negative situation, um, is always like a nice way to handle things.
yeah. I started off as the head accountant for actually my now brother-in-law, who started a bookkeeping business because he talked to me and he knew I could do it. Um, and then after a few years, we started bickering about the business. And we kind of said, you know what? Our friendship is more important than the business.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a step back and start my own. And he's been calling me consistently ever since then with new leads, new referrals, coming up and going, hey, I got this bookkeeping client, but it's more complicated than my staff is good for. Can you do that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so it's been good for us both, not just on a personal level, but business level, because now I feel very comfortable referring people to him. I know what his processes are. I help create them.
Yeah.
And he feels comfortable referring to me because we've worked together and he knows exactly what my capabilities are. So,
Referrals.
yeah, I love it.
It's like the best thing. Small business, it's like referrals are so, so important. I
First
mean,
thing
a
I tell
sales
small
funnel's
business
fine and
owners,
all, but like, talking to 100 people and versus talking to two people who are good referrals is, yeah.
well, I tell all of my business owners that I work with, have you joined? What networking groups have you joined?
Yeah.
And they say, what? Maybe it's not a, maybe I'm not good for a networking group. I said, no, you need to be around other business owners. Even if they
Yeah.
never send you a referral, you need to be around other business owners to get their perspectives on things.
Yeah.
And then I said, over time, you're going to end up with a kind of a, I'm going to show my age, a Rolodex of um,
I remember
really good
those.
people to refer to. And some of the weirdest referrals will come up. And then you'll be able to say, I've got someone who does that. Would you like me to refer them to you?
Oh, yeah.
Or would you like me to have them call you? And then you look like a hero.
I will say too, referrals are great because then it also allows you to give somebody an answer without doing it yourself.
Yeah.
I know I tend to be a little bit of a people pleaser in business. And so it's like, oh yeah, we can do that, or oh yeah, I can do that. And it's like, again, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Exactly.
And here's, two people who I trust to, refer you out. Because then it's still a positive interaction. It's still them coming to you for an answer, but the answer isn't, you doing that thing.
Yeah, actually, I just had a call yesterday with I called a gentleman who was referred to me,
Hmm.
and he was asking about retirement vehicles. Well, I don't do retirement planning, but the gentleman that referred him to me does. And so the whole referral was really me saying, you can trust Josh. He's going to take really good care of you. He knows how to do this correctly. It's not going to create a taxable event. You don't have to worry
Yeah.
about that, but you can trust Josh. He is really good at his job. And that does a few things. One, the client leaves. He's not a good client for me.
Right.
He leaves, but he has an answer about something that he didn't know before. It didn't cost me anything, but a little bit of time. Now I've also built up my friend Josh, who is really good at his job. And the client is going to have a great experience because he's like, I've talked to Josh and he said to do this. And I've talked to this other woman that has nothing to do with Josh's company, and she's confirmed it. So now Josh is going to refer more business to me,
Yeah.
and probably this guy will too. You never know how much deeper these referrals can go.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you get one out of the blue. Um, and I think too, for what you do, people need your services all the time, but usually there's some, or once they have an accountant, they need, all the time. But there's usually some event that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Either where they're overwhelmed and they can't deal with it anymore, or where they got themselves into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You have to dig them out. But it's the same for us, right? And
Uh-huh.
it's the right place, right time. So when somebody needs, a refresh on their brand or a new identity system or a new packaging system or whatever it is, it's usually sometimes it's when they start their company, but more likely it's that they've been in business for a hot minute to test it out. They're like, "Yep, this is going to stick. I'm going to actually invest time and money into this." That's one reoccurring event that happens for us. The other is like, we have 3 products and now we're going to have 6, and now we need a system because our system broke because we didn't think through it far enough for, multiple things. So, right place, right time. The referral is great, but you don't always know when it's going to come because it's usually based on like that hiccup that happens, um, or their other bookkeeper left, right? Or their other designer doesn't have capacity or whatever. So
Or a lot of times it's, at least for me, it's they looked at their books, they're trying to get a loan, and they realize that my income is overstated dramatically. And what is this category that makes no sense?
and
So they just don't
we've had
understand
ours
what they're
as
looking at.
so we've had our books under cash accounting for a long time because I can
Mm-hmm.
never wrap my head around the accrual.
Huh?
And I'm just like, that's imaginary. I don't like that because it's imaginary. I want real numbers. What's in my bank? What do I owe? Like, just give me the real.
Yeah.
But I
I
don't have inventory, right? So
Right.
for some people, you need that because there's this bigger influx in and out. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm
Well,
trading
and
for
I laugh.
hours.
Sometimes cash and accrual are going to be pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
Um, so the biggest thing with accrual is you send out an invoice. If it's cash, you count that money when it arrives, and it's accrual. You count that money when you earn it. And it's the same thing with expenses. You count those bills when they come in, not when you pay them. And most people can't wrap their minds around that.
yeah,
But accrual is the standard. So if they're
yeah,
going to go and they're going to try to get on the exchange, or they're going to do an IPO, or they're going to start working with investors, they almost have to be on accrual.
yeah.
So
I'm talking small business because I'm never gonna
most small
go
business owners
IPO.
don't get this, so it's fine.
Yeah. Then again, it's interesting because one of the companies I consult with right now, I'm actually there. I'm technically on the team, but they are, going after funding, and it's a very different world because the most of the companies that we work with are in food and beverage and hospitality, and that's kind of one set of finances. But once you get into data centers, the finances are very, very, very different. And just you're working with governments, and you're working with energy, and you're working with, it's just a very different world. And so wrapping my head around the potential of this company versus like the chocolatier that I work with is it's been interesting.
It really is. And a lot of that is covered in business school.
Yeah.
But most people actually will call it accrual. It kind of is accrual, and I'll explain the difference to them. But they're actually, at least mentally, running on cash, and because it's easier to just see what's in the bank account. There's some dangers there,
Yeah.
but it's just easier for the client to wrap their mind around it. And I try to do a pretty good job of explaining accounting terms in a way that a layperson can understand. I tell them I'm the translator
I
between
feel like there's a
accounting and the small business owner. So
I feel like there's a lot of industries that need somebody like that that can take the jargon and reduce it into something that whoever they're speaking to can understand, because that's not to make it yes, to make it easier, but you want people to digest it. You want them to understand and like the importance of it.
yeah,
It's the same with branding. It's the same with your 401k and your investments, right? It's like if somebody's just speaking so high level that you're like, I'm hearing you, but I really don't understand what you're saying. It's
I
like AI
understand
right
each of
now.
those words, but not in that order in that
Yeah.
sentence.
And I mean, I live in San Francisco, right? Every single billboard in San Francisco is only speaking to somebody who builds or uses an AI engine
Mm-hmm.
for 100% of their job, right? Because we're in this bubble of
Right.
AI here in the Bay Area. And um, and I will constantly, because I network all the time, and I'll ask somebody, they'll say, I'm like, oh, well, what keeps you busy? What industry are you in? And they'll say, well, I'm in AI. And I'm like, that tells me
That
nothing.
tells me nothing.
What problem are you solving with this tool called AI? Right? That's like saying, like, yeah, I'm like, get more specific. Get me a little bit, because they could be in healthcare. They could be in, yeah, they could be in technology, but they could be in education. They could be in food. They could be, I mean, there's 100 different things it could be in. AI to me is the tool, but if you're just speaking in, whatever your technology speak is for your industry, no one's going to be able to understand it. And being able to simplify that helps you with networking, but also helps somebody refer you who's not in your industry, um, but also helps your customers understand. So,
Yeah. And you want your customers they don't have to know all the little details, but they need to at least understand what you're doing.
yeah,
I use AI all the time. I can't program it. I would not want to try, but I can write workflows. I can use it. I can use it to teach me how to write it. So, um, but I'm very specific about I use AI for client contacts, for making sure that we get everything in, to make sure that I'm notified when documents are uploaded at tax time, to make sure that these things happen, because I don't want any. I've got a lot of balls in the air, and I don't want any of them to drop. Um, so I use it as an assistant. I don't think it will ever take my job, just like it will never take yours. It will change it, but it will never
well,
take
it's
it.
already changed.
Oh yeah, it's absolute. If you haven't embraced it by now,
Yeah,
um, you're behind the eight ball.
yeah,
So, and I agree. I mean, some of these people will use $10 words to try to sound smart, and I will sit back and say, "You don't really sound smart. You sound pretentious." Now, tell me what you really do.
yeah. And I think when you're only talking to your peers,
Mm-hmm.
and again, the power of networking, when you're
Mm-hmm.
forced to talk to people who are different than you and have different backgrounds and understand things differently, you can't just use jargon. And so it's, um, yeah, we're kind of, yeah, it's like looping back around. It's like, get to the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell people all the time now, if I start to sound like I'm talking down to you, please stop me. But I'm used to talking to people that are not familiar with my industry.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure you understand. It's not me trying to be condescending. I really just want to make sure you understand. And I want to avoid the use of jargon as much as I can. So, and if I have to use it, I really want to define it for my client so that they're not just wondering what the heck did I just say? What language are you speaking again?
Well, for me, it's also if they don't understand, then they're not comprehending, and then they don't remember. Like, well, you didn't tell me that, or
Or
whatever
worse,
it
then they
is.
don't understand the value of what they're paying you to do. So, yeah, that's great.
Be nice to people. Treat them the
Be
way that you
nice
want
to
to be
people.
treated.
Be nice to people, even if they don't think like, especially if they don't think like
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Um,
I agree.
one of the things that I've heard is that you should always assume going into a conversation that someone's going to know something you don't know. So I've taken that to heart and I really try to do that. So
Well,
um, you were going to say?
like, oh, I was going to say, fun conversation. Is there anything
Yeah,
else that we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I have really enjoyed this. How can people reach you if they want to hire you?
um, noise13.com. So it's the word noise, the number 1 3. And I am very easy to find. Dava Guthmiller, there's only one of me. Um, I have a lot of other companies that I'm a part of, but again, LinkedIn, the Noise 13 website, those are like the really easy ways to find me.
Awesome. We'll include the website in our show notes so that people can reach out and find you. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for the conversation. This is great, Donna. Thank you.
And with that, we'll go ahead and end, folks. We will see you again next time and have a wonderful rest of your day.